Hi everyone. So I am now going to show you a model of what this could look like with your students. And I've chosen the topic, which text better explains a historical event. So I'm going to go ahead and get started by showing you exactly what this would look like step by step. So as a teacher, the first thing you're going to do is you are going to give them a topic. So in this case, I've chosen which text better explains a historical event. And so in your directions to students, you tell them that the sentence frames are going to revolve around that. And in this case, it's going to revolve around two texts. So the first thing is I'm going to give them a prompt for making their statement so that they make the exact type of statement I am looking for from them. So in this case, I've given them the prompt after reading the two texts about the cherry blossoms in Washington, D.C., write a statement claiming which text best explain the history of the blossoms. And so using the frames, students are going to write something like this. The article titled Cherry Blossoms, A History, best explain the history of the cherry blossoms in Washington, D.C. So step 2, they're going to roll the dice for the first time. And then they are going to complete the stem in regards to the previous statement that's on the paper. And in this case, the first time is just the one statement. And I want to encourage them and remind them that they are imagining they're two different people talking back and forth with each other. Now, this is a great strategy. You can use this tool with small groups in a WebEx meeting, and I'll get into more of that later. But for right now, I just want you to be able to envision this whole process. So the student rolled a die, and let's say they rolled a 2. Okay, so now they have the prompt, have you considered? Now, depending on the age of your students, you might have to spend some time breaking down, have you considered, or you might give them a different stem to go along with this. But I think this is a great way to teach them academic vocabulary and thinking like in an academic world versus just a friendly conversation. So the student might come up with, have you considered that the photo story, which is the other text, Cherry Blossoms, A History, uses photographs to better see the history? So they're providing them an opposing point of view. Okay, so they have to think about, well, have you considered that the other one does this? Okay, so they're going to roll the dice a second time, and now they're going to complete the stem in regards to the previous statement made. So they roll the die, and they roll a 5. And the 5 is, I don't agree because. Now, remember that they are thinking in terms of the previous statement. So this person is now talking to the previous statement. So they could say something like, I don't agree because in the article Cherry Blossoms, A History, the reader is able to follow a story in order where the photo story bounces around in history. So now they're giving reasoning why they wouldn't agree necessarily that the photo story claim made here isn't correct, or they don't agree with it. Okay, so now we're moving on to the final roll. They're going to roll the die a third time. And again, they're making their statement in response to the previous one being made. All right, and so this time they rolled a 1. So they have, I agree. An example of this is. So now they're agreeing with this person. I agree. An example of this is in the article Cherry Blossoms, A History. The author gives more detail of how the first batch of blossoms were diseased and had to be replaced. So now this one, they're providing an example to support this person, the previous one. Okay. Now step 3. Now they look at all of their new ideas and complete this sentence frame. And they have to be sure to refer to all the ideas that they made in step 2, which is the rolling of the dice. And so the frame is, in light of these considerations, blank because blank. And so they might come up with this. In light of these considerations, the article Cherry Blossoms, A History best explains the history of the cherry blossoms in Washington, D.C., because the reader is able to learn more details about the history in the order that it occurs, making it clearer than the photo story. So what this strategy has essentially done is the students are essentially making an opinion about something. It could be about which is better to receive in an Easter basket, an egg filled with candy or an egg filled with toys, right? It could be that simple. In this case, though, they've been working with text, and this is a way for me to have them engage with and dive into the text. And you can see the progression of the thinking. They've had to think and transfer their knowledge beyond just one way that they view a text by looking at viewing the text from a different point of view or a different perspective, which is in this case, this was the one that they had to do an alternate opinion to the previous one. And so this roll around an idea strategy is not perfect thinking. It's important to stress with the students that they don't have to be perfect in their ideas. We know that learning occurs in the process, not in the product. So as the teacher, I'm not really that concerned about what they come up with each role, other than that they're trying to use these stems and they're trying to think in a different way. So this is an example of what this strategy could look like with students.